Well, hello, my friends. Thanks for joining in today. We're going to be talking about an interesting topic, and I hope a bunch of you join in online and then are listening moving forward. But we're going to be talking about that time when everything seems like it is going well, and you're talking to a potential client. And all of a sudden, everything, all the flags, all the green flags are coming out, right? And everyone's excited to move forward and it's all looking good. And then it actually doesn't happen. And I want to talk about this today because I was on a coaching call with a designer, and I thought that maybe the things that she was experiencing, well, I certainly could relate to all the feelings that she was experiencing. And I was also thinking, gosh, there must be other people that are feeling this way too. So thanks for joining, Audra. Good to see you. Rufino7, good to see you today. Glad you joined in. We're going to be talking about what happens when you're talking to somebody, a potential client, and Audra says, oh, that was the title for this based on... Well, we're going to be helping everybody else out today, Audra, because you are not alone, and we've all felt this way. And so I'm going to ask you, first of all, if you're talking to a potential client and everything's looking good, all the dominoes are falling, they're like, yes, 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 yes. And then nothing happens. And how does that make you feel? Like, for those of you who are currently on the live with me, put a heart where I say things that, that happened to me, or where you're feeling like maybe you're feeling you're not good enough, that you didn't deserve this job, or maybe you were concerned that your portfolio wasn't beautiful enough, or maybe you felt like you didn't have enough experience, or maybe you also felt like that you read the client wrong, right? There's so many things that kind of get wrapped up into what happens when we don't get a job. And here's one of the things that I want you guys to for sure be thinking about is when you go through the process that you have, right? And that you've already figured out that, you want to maybe first talk to a client on the phone, then set up a meeting, do an on-site meeting, and then from there get a proposal. And, I have those own steps that are going on in my own business that I do, and hopefully you're documenting your own steps. So if you're going through all those steps and then you don't get the job, this is something that we never do because we all tend to be very future facing, is I want you to think about to go back and kind of look at what happened there. Is there anything else that I could have done differently or could have improved on or whatever? So I'm going to talk about this particular situation that happened, and I'm sure most of you can relate to it. So a great opportunity came across her desk, and she went ahead and set that discovery call up, and things were going swimmingly. They were connecting not only on a design level, but also on a personal level. So they had a lot in common, a lot of great rapport going on. Really good conversation, really good vibe. Saw the portfolio, loved the portfolio, said everything looks really, really lovely. The client wasn't afraid of color, which this designer loves to do and loves to incorporate. So all of this, all the angels were singing, right? And the next step was to pay for a consultation, which the client agreed to. So yes, everything's moving along. And to boot, this was like her biggest opportunity yet for a large job, great furniture portion. So she was like super excited about it. And after the link was sent for the consultation, there was crickets. There was like, they didn't actually make the payments. Now they knew what this was all going to cost. So this wasn't any of those things. They didn't make the payment. They weren't responding to little emails and things that were being sent as a follow-up, which was done really, really well. She sent a shock and awe box to talk a little bit about how it would be like working with her moving forward and all of that, just to educate the client, all that stuff, but still crickets. And then received the email that said, hey, we decided to go with another designer. Now, she was crushed, and I'm sure that so many of you would also feel really upset about that. And the thing that happened was we were talking on the phone, and she was like, well, maybe my portfolio wasn't good enough. Maybe I didn't do something right. Like, what did I do wrong here? Like, what happened? Because obviously she wants to improve her business and how she's handling this pre-sales process, right? Because it's so incredibly important. She's like, what did I do wrong here? What step did I miss? And these are the things that we're going to be, talking about in our membership. Like, when you have access to me in the membership, you can call me and talk through some of these things, because it is so incredibly invaluable to have somebody help you like work through this stuff. Like, she was thinking that she had done something wrong and that it was her portfolio, or maybe she should try to go back and save the opportunity. And we're going to talk through that in a minute. But I think having someone that you can talk to as these things are happening real time in your business is incredibly helpful. I have somebody that helps me do that in my own business, and just that outside perspective, because to be honest with you, we really get in our heads when it comes to basically, hey, Devin Downs Design, good to see you. So glad you were here. But I just think that we take, well, first of all, of course, we take things personally because we've now been rejected, right? And we're always thinking to ourselves, well, what did I do? Why am I not good enough? Why didn't I get this job? What's happening here? And this is especially, I would say, amplified when we're also trying to level up. So if you had been getting jobs at, let's just say you're getting interior design jobs and they're 2 to 3 rooms each, and you've been doing that for a while, you kind of know what the cadence there is. You know what you should be charging. You know when the client is hesitating and things like that. But when you get ready to level up, you're also dealing with your own insecurities about being able to handle that type of job and being good enough to move to that next level. So not only are all the other things going on, like just being able to level up to that next job, but all that insecurity, right, with going on in your head. So to have somebody to talk through with you what happened, what was going on, and give you feedback from a perspective of someone who's not in that situation is incredibly helpful, because this little brain up here really messes with us sometimes, and it really takes us to places that we have no business going. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. I'm actually going to be doing a free webinar. I've got the date set. It's coming up on the 25th of this month, called Sales for Introverts. If you are looking to get really better at sales and to recognize the things that clients do where you can work through sales and close sales, then you need to be in that free workshop. That's coming up on the 25th. If you want to be in on that, the link is in the information below. But let's get back to the story. So my client said, maybe I didn't get this job, or maybe I got rejected from this job, right? Because my portfolio is not good enough. Does it not look high end enough? Does it not look elevated enough? And all of that stuff. So the first thing I did, hey Mumford, good to see you. The first thing I did is I went on her website and I looked at her portfolio. And I'm sitting there. This was before we spoke on the phone, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it going, this is beautiful. There's nothing wrong here. This is amazing. She's doing a great job. Hey, Mountain Lux. Glad to have you. We're talking about what happens when clients are looking so good and they're just loving everything, and then they just don't pull the trigger, they don't book. They say they're going to, and then they never do. So one of the things that my client had said was, I wonder if it's my portfolio. And I know that she's very sensitive to her portfolio because she feels like she hasn't done the breadth of work that she would like, and she's leveling up as well. So she also has those things going on in the back of her mind. But when I looked at her portfolio, and in fact, I had seen an improvement from when I looked at it several months before. So her portfolio was beautiful. It wasn't her portfolio. It looked lovely. It looked high-end enough. She was saying all the right things. So it wasn't the portfolio. So then I got on the phone with her and I said, well, walk me through what you did with this client. Walk me through the process of how things happened, how she came to find you, and what happened there. And so she talked me through it. She talked to me about that she had gotten their information. She knew exactly what was going on with the project. She knew how those people had come to her. She told me about the questions and the things that they had talked about in their interview process. She got the yeses, right, on the phone. She said, this is how we work. Our next step is to do a paid consult. The woman said, yes, this is great. Loved everything up until this point. Like I said, great rapport going on throughout the whole, interview process. There's several forms of that, which is obviously on the phone and then later on site. As you get to know somebody, they reveal more and more. Have you guys ever, if you've ever been, maybe had a family member or been in the hospital, you'll notice they ask you the same questions over and over again. And the reason they do that is because the answers change over time. So that is also why you want to have multiple touches with a client as you're doing this pre-sale process, right? Because they're going to reveal different things, more information, new things. They're going to say certain words, and we're going to go over that in the membership and in the Sales for Introverts workshop about what to be looking for. But this is why you want to have multiple conversations with people, not just fill out a form. I'm not a fan. So I want you to be talking people and looking at their body language and hearing the words they say. So as we talked through it, she did that. After the meeting, she did the follow-up. She did several follow-ups, in fact. And so as we talked through that, I was thinking to myself, you did nothing wrong. You absolutely did nothing wrong. You did everything right. You had created a process. You followed the process. The boxes were all checked. The dominoes were falling as they should. And they didn't book. So one of the things that happened was she did tell me that the client was also deciding to do some construction work, had engaged a contractor, and they had prematurely kind of started some work that they were going to hold off on, but they went ahead and started it. And so what I suspect is that there is a couple things that may have happened. Of course, we are, speculating because the client didn't give an answer. Luckily, the client did say, we've decided to go with another designer. Ouch, right? Which we're going to talk about ghosting, I think, in another live, because so many people are having problems with that as well. And we're going to talk about ways that you can mitigate that. But the good news is she was told that this client had decided to go into another direction. So at least she had closure. So we should be thankful for that. She followed her process. She knows exactly where she needs to be and what the dominoes are, right? So it's the phone meeting. After the phone meeting, for her, it's a paid consult. And here's the interesting thing, is that if you have this process set And I know there are reasons. I think there are good reasons for people to have paid consults or to not have paid consults. I see both sides of that story. I don't have paid consults, but I know so many of you do because it's a commitment from the client to move to the next level. And if you're finding that you're going on a lot of consults and they are not, turning into jobs, obviously you want to be compensated. For me, I don't do them as consultations. I actually just do it more as a sales call. So I don't get paid for that, but I also have a much higher close rate. So I kind of know already where these projects are going, but I totally understand why you might do a paid consult. And that is the next part of your process. If they don't move forward with that, that's telling you something. So I think that's so incredibly important because she followed her process, and at some point in the process, the client dropped off. And we want to be aware of, this is how you're pre-qualifying people. This is how you're not wasting your time becoming more and more invested in a client and in a project to find out farther down the line that they don't have the budget, they don't want to spend the money, they don't understand the value. Like, this is all part of the process. Now, as we were talking through this situation, I suspect what happened was one of two things. First of all, this is what I want you guys to realize. It doesn't have anything to do with you. In this situation, it had nothing to do with her. I really, truly, truly believe that. I think there were other factors involved. So one of the things I want you to take away from this is, because you don't get a job doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. It is other factors. So what I suspect happened here is one of two things. One, she talked to her husband about the paid consult, and then they started talking about some of these other things that they wanted to do in their home, and decided to put the money towards the contractor and hold off, even though they said they went with someone else, but to hold off on the design portion. And or the second thing that I think happened was that they engaged the contractor, and the contractor said, we have a designer that we work with and they'll throw their design, it won't be no charge for design. So I think this is honestly what happened, is I think they went with a route that was probably something that she wouldn't have wanted anyway. So I want to backtrack just a little bit. So when she got this email that said, we've decided to go with another designer, my client says to me, should I try to go back and save this job? Hi, Sherry Landa. Good to see you, girl. So glad you're with us. We're kind of talking through what happens when clients don't book and they look great. Everything looks great on paper. And when my client got the email to go ahead and that they had decided to go with another designer, she's like, should I try to go and save this? Should I get back in touch with her and tell her that I would do a consult for free so that she can see what I can do and what my value is? And I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, because at one point you were willing to charge for your consultation, and now you're willing to do it for free because the client has decided to go into another direction. No. I think the bigger issue is here that you stuck to your process and it wasn't a good fit. And that's okay. When you start to get to the next level in your design business, you actually feel okay when jobs don't happen. And I know that sounds so weird and it sounds so counterintuitive, but you start to learn with experience that when you create these boundaries that are really important to you. For her, the paid consult is important because she's had situations where people have taken advantage or they weren't committed, right? So she created this boundary here. When people don't go through that next level with you, that's the sign. So many of you are saying, and this is one of the things I kind of crack up about, is when you get an opportunity and you really don't want it, you just jack the price up. And then you pray to God you don't get it. That's like the worst thing you can do, because what happens is, what if you get it? You spend 6 months, 8 months with somebody that you absolutely can't stand. So to me, this is almost like a blessing from the universe. This job was not meant to be. Now, would this client possibly come back around when things might not go so well with the free version of whatever they've been offered, or how doing it themselves, or however they've decided that they're going to move forward? Yeah, they may come back, but that is a lesson that has to be learned on their own. So if you get through your process, through your interview process, through what I call the audition process, and they are not on board with certain things, and basic things like we've talked about in previous lives about how you can change the scope to match where a client is at. That's also still kind of on your terms. This is not on your terms. Going back and doing something for free that you were going to charge for is not on your terms, right? So when you have this situation, you have to start changing your thought process, saying this is why I've set these things up in place. And to be honest with you, why I want you to be thinking about what your non-negotiables are is at a time when you're not in front of a client, is because you're not making these decisions in emotional state. When somebody tells you that they don't want to hire you and you want to go back and do it for free, that's you kind of making that decision in an emotional state. And I want you to be thinking about that. All these decisions in a more logical state when you're not, in front of an incredible, to be sure, opportunity for her, one of the biggest that she had ever come across. So, because she was excited about it, she wanted this job. And it looked like it was going to be really fun. The rapport was going to be awesome. They were going to do some fun stuff. They were going to spend some money. All those things looked good. But this other part made her realize that this was not the job for her. So I want you to be thinking about some of your non-negotiables ahead of time before you're in the moment, because when you're in the moment, you're going to cave because you want the job. So I just want you guys to be thinking about that sometimes projects are just not a good fit, and that's okay. Like, this is part of learning where you guys are at and where your next level is. And as you're leveling up, those non-negotiables are going to change as you start to go to different kinds of projects, as you start to learn about yourselves as designers, and what kind of clients and what kind of projects you're going to be working with. So part of leveling up is understanding that you're not going to get every job, and you're not going to want every job. Because probably up until this point, you've been getting every job, saying yes to every job, which is fine, because we need to do that to get money flowing. Like, I totally understand that. But when you're ready for that next level, you get to the point where you're like, I can't do this anymore. Everybody does it. I'm not going to take any more of those either hourly jobs or 1-room jobs. I'm now going to 2 to 3 room jobs. And when you get to 2 to 3 rooms, you're like, I'm not going to do any of those anymore. I just want to do 6 rooms and above. It's all part of leveling up. So creating those boundaries in terms of where you want to be is so incredibly important. So getting that outside perspective, like, this is what we do in the membership, is you get to contact me and talk with me about what's going on and the factors that happened. Because I think for her, if we hadn't been able to talk it through, she would have felt like the reason she didn't get this job was because of her. And I absolutely do not think that's the case. I think she did everything right. In fact, I think she's learned so much about herself, and she's going to be way more prepared the next time that this opportunity comes along, because it will, because we've talked about this. Like, I'm ready for her, and she's ready, of course, to sign her first 6-figure clients. She's ready to go, and she's committed to it. So she understands, like, you learn more and more as you go through these processes. And going back and taking the time to just look at, like, what happened. What were the steps that you took the client through? What were the things that they said? What were those conversations? Where did things change? Where did you get to the point where they no longer moved forward with you. And if you can debrief on some of those things, especially with somebody who's not attached to the situation, it's so incredibly important. And I think the big takeaway is that she's so much more confident moving forward because she's a lot more confident in her process, that process is really, really very good. And moving forward, thanks Social Swander. It said the membership is fire. Yeah. Just having the confidence, I will say, that is like the crux of so many things in terms of leveling up your business. When you present how you work confidently, when you know what your process is, when you know what your minimums are, when you know what things costs, that comes across in your presentation to your clients when you present one option. We're going to talk, there's so many things wrapped up in this episode that we could dive into. Presenting one option, one best option. Oh, I could go on and on about that. But all that confidence rolls up to why clients hire you. And when you are when you're putting yourself out there as the expert. So I want you to be thinking about the next time that you get rejected, if you did something wrong, maybe you didn't. And we almost never consider that maybe we did everything right. And maybe this just wasn't the opportunity for us at this time because something else, something other than a factor that we are aware of is going on in the background. Or maybe they're just not ready to take on a designer with what you're charging or what you're doing or what you're offering, and that's okay because that's what this process is for. That's what that pre-sale process is for. Can you guys put some hearts in the chat if these are some of the things that you've been experiencing, and if there's something else that's been going on with pre-qualifying clients? Like, I would love to hear about that because these are also great ways for us to for me to give some other great insights into like ghosting and how to handle those sorts of things. Again, Sales for Introverts workshop is coming up in 2 weeks. If you want to join in and get the Zoom link, because I'm sending that out tomorrow to everybody, go ahead and get signed up. But this is what happens. You start to determine and you start to understand the people that you love to work with, how to take your business to the next level. Learning how to confidently present yourself and understand what your own boundaries are and why they're there. So you get to like really think about and craft where you're going and then present that confidently. That's going to get you bigger jobs than ever before. So if you're a designer and you're looking to level up your business, you're looking to go to that next level, if you're looking to really hone in on doing better work, understanding clients, what motivates people in the sales process, knowing how to close people a lot more confidently and know where you stand. I think that's the other thing. Do you know where you stand in your business in terms of what you want and what you don't want? Then you need to be signing up for that Sales for Introverts workshop. It's coming up in a couple weeks. I hope I will see you guys there. It's on 7/25, so you'll be getting that email. If you're on the wait list, you'll be getting that email tomorrow with all the details and the Zoom link. So you definitely want to be getting on there. And I hope you guys realize that when you get in a situation where you don't get the job, that it's not always you. And I want you to feel really good about what you're doing and what you're providing for clients. And that's one of the things that we can craft together so that you feel really good as to why you're doing things a certain way in your business, why you're pricing things a certain way in your business, why you're taking people through a certain process, that you're really confident in that. And that really comes down to you understanding what you want and how you want to present that. And we talk all about that in the membership. So I hope you guys enjoyed the live today, and I hope you feel really good about when you don't get those jobs. I know that sounds so weird, but just understand that this is all part of the process. This is part of you going to the next level, leveling up, and saving you some heartache and some headaches in future so that you have less and less clients that are really draining you, and you're going to get to a higher percentage of clients who you're just like, I love everyone that I'm working with. I'm so happy. They're so wonderful. They really appreciate me. This is part of that process, and you have to let some jobs go, or you'll never get those jobs, but that's good. You don't want every job that comes your way, because you're learning what really works for you and works for your clients. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you feel better about rejection. So strange, but it's good. You feel better about rejection that happens in your business because you know it's for a higher purpose. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. And if you want to sign up, check out the link, and we'll talk soon. Take care, everybody.